Hello, super coaches. How are you? My name is Chris Jackson, and today's video I'm talking about imposter syndrome. Specifically, a lot of the questions that I get asked from the coaches that I work with are questions like, if I haven't achieved a particular result and a client's asking me to help them get it, am I really qualified to help them get it? Or if a client's wanting to solve a particular problem or overcome a particular fear that you haven't yet overcome, then how can I sit in integrity and congruently say to a client I can help them with a problem when I haven't actually overcome that problem? Well, today I'm going to answer that question and how you can move through that and completely smash through this limitation for yourself. And first of all, the biggest myth, or one of the biggest misunderstandings that coaches come into the industry with, that unfortunately is something that is quite rife in the industry, is a lot of coaches feel like they're the ones that are getting the result for their clients. As a coach, even as a consultant, you are not getting the result for your client. You are providing support. You are creating impact on the client. Now, that impact obviously then needs to be actioned. The client needs to take action. They need to take responsibility, and they're the ones that are going to get the result. So first of all, don't think that you're getting the result. You are creating the conditions, and you are providing the skill set to create impact in them for them to go and get the result that they want. So I think that's an important distinction that we need to establish before we go any further, because otherwise, if you're thinking that you're getting your client the results, you're going to put a lot of pressure on yourself to feel like you've got to get in the trenches and sort of start digging with them. But that's not the point of coaching. Coaching is a done with the client solution. It's not a done for the client solution. If you're running an agency, or if you're building a home for someone, if you're literally delivering a product, well, it's different. You are providing a fully delivered solution where literally you're building something and delivering it, and it's a turnkey solution. Coaching is very, very different. Coaching is when you're working with an individual or a team or a group, and you're helping them transform the way that they view their reality. So you're helping them shift you're giving them inner resources. You're helping them access inner resources. So that's the first distinction. The second one is you've got to understand the difference between mindset and transformational coaching versus strategic consultative advice. And they're two totally different worlds. So if you're working in the domain of mindset, which is pure transformational coaching, well, you can pretty much help any client with any project or any result that they're working on, because you're working on their inner resources. You're helping them remove limiting beliefs. You're helping them shift their perspective. You're helping them maybe understand themselves at a deeper level and remove the limitations that they've got that are invisible to them, that are made of thought. So that's what you're doing if you're a pure transformational mindset coach. So if you're a strategist, if you're a consultative expert where you're providing strategic advice, that's very, very different. You're now consulting on a mechanical system. You're now providing your own personal expertise on understanding the nature of how something is designed, how it's built, how it's operated. So that would be where you're bringing a different level of expertise to solve more of an external mechanical problem. Now that's different. That's the role of the specialist who's making fine adjustments and who has a high level of expertise about the system and the way that it works. That's different than mindset coaching. So, for example, someone might come to you to create a blockchain, a blockchain business, and there will be a strategic component to that, which would be designing all the code and designing the platform and all the techie stuff. And then there's their own mindset about how they self-lead, how they manage their time, how they move through their own insecurities and fears, and how they communicate and how they think about the world. Now, all of that's in the dimension of mindset. So if they're coming to you, you've got to establish during the intake process what it is that they want to work on. Do they want strategy? Do they want the technical stuff? Do they need the technical stuff? Or do they want mindset work? Do they want to transform their inner world rather than the external strategic world? So that's a really important question that you've got to get to the bottom of during intake, is what level of mindset versus strategic support do they want and need? And you've got to scope up this project to let them know, well, hang on, you've got to have both strategic and mindset work. And if you do one or the other or a bit of both, you've got to be fully transparent with letting your client know, well, this is what I do. If you're expecting that, you're not going to get it from me. Or alternatively, you might be the strategist and you can say, absolutely, I can give you the strategy, but I can't help you with any of your mindset stuff. You're going to need to go see a mindset coach for that. So when we can have that level of clarity about what we do and what we don't do, we can now start to more congruently realize what can we actually promise as a coach? And that's a great question you can ask yourself, is what can I actually promise my client? Because you can't promise the client is absolutely going to get a result in their external world when it's up to them to do the heavy lifting. They're the ones that have got to go and get the result. Unless you're delivering a done-for-you service, then you can't promise that a client is going to get a result because they're the ones that have got to get it. What you can promise, well, that comes down to your own certainty. That comes down to your resolve and your experience, and understanding the nature of how you work with clients is going to determine what you feel like you can promise. And I encourage you to ask that question for yourself. What is it I feel like I can promise my client? Because the client's going to ask you, what is it you can promise me? And you've got to come up with a very, very clear answer. So the next part of this is really starting to realize that we can help anyone. You don't even have to be a coach to be able to help someone. You could literally be there for moral support, or literally just reflecting back at someone what it is that's going wrong, or what their limitations are. So you might have a very low skill set and you can still be effective in supporting someone to move forward to get their results. So yeah, you don't have to have created a successful $1 million blockchain business to help someone do the same. You could just be there supporting, and you're going to help them get there quicker than if they try to do it on their own. So absolutely, you don't have to have achieved a particular result in a certain area to help someone else get that. Now, the other important area here is the problem side of things. Like someone might be wanting support with a limiting belief. They might have a limiting belief that you also have. Now, this is great. In fact, this is one of the best things about coaching, is because we have the skill set of coaching, and when you understand things like limiting beliefs, you can help someone transform their limiting belief because you understand the code of psychology and understand the code of human behavior. You can help someone completely transform that belief, even though you've still got that belief, because you're now working on someone else. It's like a mechanic. Their car might be broken and they might not have fixed their own car, but they can go over to someone else's car and they know how to fix someone else's car, but they just haven't got around to fixing their own car. Now, this is something that, as a coach, this is one of the bizarre but beautiful things about coaching, is that a lot of the time we have dysfunctions or insecurities that we haven't addressed, but when a client comes to us, well, it's much easier to help a client with that because it's outside of us. It's outside of our mind. And so never for one moment think that just because you have a limiting belief or just because you've got a fear, don't think that means you can't help someone else solve that fear. Now, I'll add one last thing before I go, which is, yes, if you've resolved your inner limitations, if you've resolved your fears, if you've shifted your limiting beliefs, if you've done the work, like really deep inner work, then the foundation or the platform that you're standing on, also known as your grounding in the three principles language that we speak about. When you shift your grounding, what happens is the level of truth, like embodied truth, embodied understanding is at a higher level. So when someone's coming to you with a limiting belief, instead of you now thinking, oh, gee, I've got that as well, what do I do here? Because you've been through that process, you can see it through a deeper, more fundamental aspect, which means that when someone comes to you with that belief, because you've already been through it, you've seen it at a different level, you're an expert in overcoming that belief. So now you'll be able to get there quicker. You'll be able to be more effective. You'll be able to speak with a lot more congruence and calmness and confidence because you already know you've moved through it. So you know all about that. In fact, you've seen insights, you've had self-discovery, you've had experimentations that have gone successfully, that have failed. You know that intimately. So the more intimately that you know that, the more effective you'll be able to help your client. Now, that doesn't mean that just because you have a limiting belief, doesn't mean you won't be able to help your client resolve or remove that limiting belief for them. What it does mean is if you have resolved that limiting belief or that limitation for yourself, you'll most likely be able to get there quicker, with more confidence, And instead of it taking you maybe 1 hour, you potentially could address it in 1 minute or 2 minutes or 10 minutes. So there is a speed, there is an efficacy, there is a greater level of impact you can make by having done the work yourself. So yes, I'm not advocating don't do the work. I'm saying once you've done the work on yourself, once you've removed any of those limitations, you become far more impactful, and you can help get a client to their result, help them get their own result, help them resolve their own limitations far quicker. So I trust that's been helpful. I love your insights, any feedback, any realizations, please share them here in the group, and I look forward to sharing more with you again soon. That's it for me. I'm Chris Jackson. Bye for now.